Welcome to the Space City X-Files.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors, to another episode of the Space City X-Files, the podcast that takes you on many journeys through the mysteries and strangeness of our universe and beyond. I'm your host, Rick, and in this week's episode, we'll be exploring the strange and intriguing world of our closest celestial neighbor, the Moon. From its mysterious origins to the strange facts and conspiracies surrounding it, we'll delve into the enigmatic world of the Moon and uncover the secrets hidden within its craters and shadows. So sit back, relax, and join us as we embark on this lunar adventure together. This is episode 23, The Mysteries of the Moon. A few quick announcements. Space City X-Files appreciates you listening to today's episode. Whether you're a new friend or a long-time listener, one thing you'll notice is that we run no commercial ads or anything here. And that allows us to give the best possible experience, and we'll do everything we can to keep it that way. This is where your support plays a huge role. After you listen to the episode, whatever platform you're on, please take a few minutes to leave us a review on what you thought. Your feedback helps us grow by bringing awareness to the show, which in turn will bring new listeners and help us break through all those pesky algorithms. And so we need the interaction. If by any chance you would like to support the show with a monetary donation, you can go to our website and click on the Support Us tab. And there you can type in any amount you want. All proceeds always goes towards improving the program. And we thank you for your consideration. And that will conclude today's announcements. Alright, so as we mentioned, we'll be diving into some of the mysteries of the Moon today. But before we get into all of that, let's recap some of the natural wonders that make up the Moon, just to refamiliarize ourselves. And don't worry, this is not a history lesson or an astrology lesson. This is just a basic refresher course. And so, as we know, and if you don't know, you'll find out now, that big bright thing that lights up the night sky above us has been around for quite some time. So the popular opinion, according to the scientific world, is that the Moon found itself being created sometime around 4.5 billion years ago, not long after the forming of the solar system and our planet itself. So, Earth was in its infancy, nothing like it is now, although it was thought to already have single-celled organisms living on it. Now, one day, a large planet or asteroid of some sort, now estimated to have been the size of the planet Mars, crashed into the Earth, and then chaos ensued. Now, at first, people thought that the planet that crashed into Earth is the thing that we have now come to know as the Moon. But then that opinion changed. And after we were able to put some people up there, allegedly, and bring home some of the terrain for us to test, we found that the isotopes in the ground were almost identical to our own. Now, after that, the most acceptable explanation goes that the object impacted Earth, and it did so with such great force and heat that a piece of the Earth and this object liquefied and mixed together and floated off into space. And so now this object is spinning around in space, mingling together, cooling together. And finally it cools, and this is what we now come to know as the Moon. Now, some of the mysteries involved with the Moon start with this very event. But let's wrap up this lesson real quick. So now that we got the Moon, it actually begins helping the Earth after they become tidally locked. Meaning due to the gravitational forces at play, the Earth will always see the same side of the Moon and vice versa, even as the Earth rotates and orbits the Sun. Now, because of this change, the Earth's wobble was more controlled, And in turn, this caused better climate to happen on planet Earth, possibly playing a role in the evolution of things and giving us what we have today, in theory at least. In all actuality, we still don't know a lot about those times, so it's really an educated guess. And given the findings that we've had recently from the James Webb Telescope, possibly causing us to rethink how old the Earth is, this is probably going to skew some of the previous thoughts or hypotheses that we had on the moon and other planets themselves. So this could change in the future, but for now, this is what we have. And anyways, the rest is history, and we've been together ever since. The Earth and the moon, best buddies.
Hooray!
All right, so now let's start looking at some of the strange facts and rumors going on with this thing that we call the moon. And we'll start with the most infamous, and then we'll work our way to the lesser known. All right, to start off, let's look at the moon landing. In the 60s, there was this great race going on between the powerful countries of the world, and every one of them was working hard to be the first country to send an astronaut to the moon. They wanted to land a spacecraft on it, and they wanted to conduct them scientific experiments, right? Now, the U.S. would eventually win this race, and it had a huge impact on our economy and our investor status, because now everybody wanted to be a big part of this big space program that had just demonstrated its technological dominance basically over everybody in the world. So on July 20th, 1969, as part of the Apollo Mission 11, the United States would land Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin on the moon. And Neil would utter that iconic line, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," after he was able to touch down. Now, after this momentous event, 12 more astronauts from the U.S. would walk the moon in Apollo missions between 1969 and 1972. And then it just stopped. Oddly. To this day, there has not been another venture to the moon by the United States or anybody else, what's even stranger. Now, another strange thing is after the first landing in 1969, no other country ever attempted to land on the moon either. It's like they just gave up, which is extremely odd after all the effort exerted to try to get there in the first place. And so this is where the first controversy begins. So many people think that the moon landing and the walk and the iconic lines never happened, on the moon at least, period. So the theory goes that although many people were trying, everyone was thought to still be really far away from being able to accomplish this feat. So imagine everybody's surprise when it happens. That plus the fact that no other country ever made it there, even after the U.S., is reported to be a testament to that theory. Now, in fact, in some countries, they refuse to even teach that America ever landed on the moon, because according to them, it never happened. Now, part of the claim is that in this conspiracy is that the United States used a Hollywood director,
And action.
one who had just finished filming a now cult classic called 2001: A Space Odyssey. Apparently, they hired this director to create the moon landing. Basically, I don't know, fabricate a moon landing. According to some, the director was very talented, but there were many discrepancies in his video, if it was indeed created. For one, they say that the lighting was supposedly like too movie set like. I mean, it was, especially for deep space. I mean, there was just, the lighting was perfect, right? Another point was that the flag that they posted and filmed in the video is like waving in a slight breeze. Something that shouldn't happen in an atmosphere like out on the moon. Something else they found odd was the fact that a group of amateur radio men who toyed around with ham radios for fun were able to crack NASA's frequency and overhear the correspondence between mission control and the men on the moon. And this seems kind of odd, right? I mean, you have the technology to land people on the moon, but you can't find a way to secure ham radio or frequency. You can't make a secure line. So this was another reason why people started to doubt the mission. Because of this, some began to think that this little blooper reel or this flip flop was more of a purposefully placed Easter egg, so they can be like, oh well, you found our exclusive moon content that happened in real time, so I guess that really proves that we were there. Anyways, there's a whole lot more regarding the moon landing, but for time purposes we need to move on to the other facts and theories. And so the other popular rumor going around is that the moon is not a moon at all. It's something artificial, and it's being used for a purpose. But by whom? Alright, so there are many different answers to that question. One claim comes from a computer hacker named Gary McKinnon, who infamously hacked NASA's main computers and unearthed some shocking information. Now, over a period of about 13 months, from February 2001 to March 2002, McKinnon would monitor the sites of the U.S. military and NASA in hopes to uncover information on secret energy projects being withheld from the public that could end the world's crisis in that regard. Now, eventually, he would be busted, and the U.S. would be screaming for his head, wanting him extradited. But the plea was blocked by the UK on the grounds that it would violate McKinnon's civil rights. Now, McKinnon was never charged, though the threat he faced was very real. He stated in many articles while his case was ongoing that if he was sent back to the U.S. to face charges, that he would surely be killed for what he saw. And so what did Gary claim he saw? All right, for one, he said that aliens were real, and the government and NASA knew and were actively working to conceal the fact. He also uncovered an Excel spreadsheet that had the names of many different military personnel, all listed under the title non-terrestrial officers. Now, Gary said these officers were stationed on a subterranean military base hidden in the Cabeus crater region of the moon's south pole, of all places, of course. Our South Pole's kind of sketchy too, right here on Earth. Gary's claims were wild, but they do fall in line with what many are currently reporting in these new whistleblowers' testimony that are coming forward in the disclosure movement. Now, perhaps if they soon get their day in front of Senate with the right protections in place, maybe Gary could be right there with them and tell everything that he saw. And for time purposes, again, there's a whole lot more to this story, but we have to stop right there because we have a strange happening episode that kind of mingles with this, with the whole Dr. Greer disclosure initiative. So if you want to learn more about that, go check that out. It's posted up right now on YouTube, and it's been there for some time now, but definitely some interesting stuff and worth checking out. Alright, so continuing on, here's something strange that happened with the moon, and you may find this one extra interesting after hearing what Gary said about the underground moon base. Alright, so on the Apollo 12 mission, they had a program called the Passive Seismic Experiment. That just sounds creepy as hell, right? What the hell are they up to with the passive seismic experiment? Anyway, so this was to be carried out along with a slew of others, all in part of the ALSEP experiment package. Now, with this PSE test, the passive seismic experiment test, the plan was to crash a lunar module into the surface of the moon, and then they would monitor the seismic activity. Sounds simple enough, right? And to everyone's surprise, the response they got was over an hour's worth of reverb that grew in strength as time went on, which is something they have never experienced before. But how could they though, right? This was only their second trip. How would they expect this? Now, this part of the program was declassified and released out to the public, causing the speculation to grow that perhaps the moon was hollow. But it was when the government refused to declassify a part of the mission called Operation Chapel Bell that people's imaginations really started to run wild. Now, even to this day, as we know, is that the program was categorized under, I'm talking about the Chapel Bell, Operation Chapel Bell. It was categorized under military defense. And for some reason, they had nuclear material on board when they took this trip. That's all we know. Don't ask me why. All I know is that, I mean, it looks and sounds sketchy as fuck. I mean, if you ask me, it sure does suggest that the moon may be hollow. And that leaves us with the question, what the hell is under there? Here's another theory for you. So on this one, it shares some similarities with the others, that the moon is not just a rock floating next to us that is helping us stabilize the climate. No, in this theory, the moon is artificial, and it did crash into us many, many years ago. But it does help us in a way. Only this way is not by chance. In this theory, the moon is actually a large spaceship that is inhabited by an ancient alien civilization. So many years ago, they crashed into us. They lost their bearings or lost control of their ship, crashed into us, and they became stranded and thought they were doomed to drift in space and eventually die until they noticed something promising, that is. So they start looking around. They say, hey, the planet below, being Earth, was lush with natural materials that could be used to fix their craft. But some things were missing. It wasn't as advanced as they hoped it would, so it wouldn't be a quick fix. They would have to stick around and kind of watch things unfold. So this civilization did. However, they did notice that life was on the planet, and with their help, they kind of did what they had to do to help the single-celled life forms begin to advance quickly, and then they would eventually come to a point where their technology could play a huge role in the alien survival. Now, in theory, this would explain why we have them visiting so often, maybe because they're harvesting material. And this is thought, and this is a thought that has brought up for some time now, dating back to like the hieroglyphics made by the Egyptians, because you have, if you look at some of the old ancient hieroglyphics, you'll see like spacemen or even spaceships. It would also explain why after the 60s there were no more trips to the moon, and no other country would dare venture either. So in theory, at some point in the Apollo mission, the aliens made contact and explained what the moon really was and what was happening, and a deal was cut where they would help us, and in turn, we wouldn't stand in their way from taking what they needed. And so, according to some, when the U.S. came back, they pretty much told like the leaders of the other countries, like, look, this is not a regular rock. This is what's up there. They're going to help us, but we're going to leave them alone. And the rest is history after that. So now, according to this theory, the only thing that we would have to worry about is when their craft was repaired. If it is repaired and they decide to leave or not, how would that affect us? The Earth may survive for sure, but the weather and overall conditions of the world would likely destabilize in a way that could be catastrophic for humans. It would essentially become the survival of the fittest once again. Who will adapt and who will perish? We don't know. So that one was interesting. I really got into that one when I read it. And it's funny too, NASA's own Buzz Aldrin said in an interview once while we were speaking about the moon and some strange structures up there. I'm sorry, while he was speaking once about the moon, and he was talking about these strange structures that are hidden down in some craters. And so he mentioned something about a strange monolith that orbited the area. He didn't mention what it was, but was confident that people knew about it. People as in the government. And he was also adamant that we needed to go back to the moon and eventually Mars so we could develop stations up there. That way we can further explore deep space. And so he strangely states too that whatever's up there on the moon, when they find it, or that is whoever goes up there to it, that they could work together with whatever it was for the betterment of mankind. And which is part of the theory of it being a military base, because maybe they already done that. The U.S. that is. And so that was one of Buzz's last interviews. Funny, oddly enough. Afterwards, even up until this day, he's kept a really low profile most of the time, even refusing to say hello back when he sees the cameras out on the streets. He did bust a guy in the mouth recently for saying that the moon landing was fake, but the guy was up in his face. But it's good to see that he still got that dog in him, you know. And so it really looks like someone got to him after that interview, though. They were like, "Hey, Buzz, like you're a national hero, so you're gonna get a pass on this one, but it's time to zip it up. You know, don't be going around saying that stuff no more." Anyways, these are just a few of the very wacky things that have been associated with the moon. There are a ton more, but for time purposes, you know how it is. You get the picture by now. Honestly, this could be a 2-part episode easily, but you know, we don't want to do that. I think we've explained enough for you to go and explore on your own, and that's what we always advise you to do. You know, don't let our word be the last of this episode. If you find it interesting, go check it out. So with all that being said, we'll go ahead and transition into our personal theories. As always, at the conclusion of the show, I will let you know my personal opinion on the subject matter, in this case being the mysteries surrounding the enigmatic moon. And I got to say, on this one, I'm kind of torn between it just being a rock that could possibly contain some kind of life form, or a secret military base that the government holds more stake up there on it than they let off to be. Okay, so in my opinion, I'm going to lean towards the military base with an alien presence. I like that idea. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards that one. You know, and if this episode would have came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I mean, I probably would have got a whole lot more eye rolls than I do these days. But after the hearings that have just happened, and all the information that's coming up, and all the whistleblowers that are coming out, I don't think you can shrug this off as easily as you could a few years ago. I mean, even the people that have zero interest in aliens or conspiracy or anything are taking notice now. So, but yeah, I'm gonna lead towards the presence of a military and alien life form on the moon. I mean, the reason why I think that is, like, for them to visit and spend all this time and effort and all this money. And I know probably money doesn't mean nothing to them. They'll just print some more of it, taxes. But still, I mean, the effort alone and all the research just to go up there and say, there's nothing here. Let's go somewhere else. I find that extremely hard to believe. And I think Gary McKinnon did stumble across some type of call sheet for the people who are stationed up there, and he exposed it. I also believe that if he ever was extradited back to the United States, he would probably be suicided pretty quickly. You know that happens. I mean, you just know it happens. I think the UK did him a huge solid because they knew that the chances were really high too. And then again, I mean, if this was really serious and he really crossed the line and got and stole secrets and all that good stuff, then why wouldn't the UK cooperate? That's my question. Why wouldn't the UK cooperate? Aren't we supposed to be allies? I mean, shouldn't they send him back? I think this is I think this was a case of, like, charge it to the game, you know, like, hey, he hacked you. your defense was weak. He pulled out some stuff. That is true. We all know it's true. So, it is what it is. We're not going to send him back. And you can't do nothing about that. And America probably thought, well, go ahead and keep the damn secrets. Nobody's going to believe you anyways. The people are so asleep in this country that, you can show them aliens are real on TV, and what are they going to be talking about? Everything but, So, I'm not 100% sure about this one, but I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the fact that there is something up there on the moon. But anyways, that's just my opinion. And you know what they say about opinions, right? Everybody has one. So if you care to share yours with me, then hit me up on social media or send me the email. You can send that to info@spacecityxfiles.com. And I would be glad to hear what you got. If you have any relatives or first-hand information on some of the strange stuff that went down on the Apollo missions, hit me up so we can interview you or see what you got, see what kind of documents you got. But you can do it off the record, on the record, beside the record, wherever you want. Just let me know. One other thing, folks, if you enjoyed this episode and you think it was interesting, you think we did a good job, you're proud of us, you want to pat us on the back, then please take a few minutes after the conclusion to leave us a short review wherever you're listening at, okay? Whether you're on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, I don't know all the ones, but anyways, wherever you're at, just take a few minutes to leave us a written review and a thumbs up. And that helps us out so much with the exposure and bringing in new listeners and helping us defeat that pesky algorithm. We need that interaction, folks. So if you like the show, help us grow. So we need you guys. I mean, we're like an infant conspiracy plant that's like popping up out of the ground. And your feedback is the water that helps us grow into this badass, thick redwood towering over all these shady shadow bastards who try to keep the wool over our eyes. You know what I mean? And we're going to expose them one by one. And so your believe it or not, your written reviews and your likes and your shares can help us do that. All right, so anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm out of here. This is Rick with the Space City X-Files. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again next week with another thought-provoking episode. Until we meet again, keep questioning, keep listening, and keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to the Space City X-Files.